For the past 3 or 4 months, every time I walked into my local Warhammer store, I'd stop and look at the combat patrols. And then I'd do the same again when I walked into my local shop to play Magic. I knew I wanted one. That part was never really in question. What stopped me was the scale of it. The idea of assembling, priming, and painting an entire force felt intimidating in a way I wasn't used to. But it was also exciting. I kept circling the idea, looking, thinking, second-guessing. Eventually, I settled on the Aeldari Combat Patrol. Something about it kept pulling me back. The shapes, the armor, the elegance of the patrol. Then, for Christmas, my wife gifted me the set. Not as a surprise decision, but because we had chosen that it was probably the best thing for me. And that felt like permission to finally begin. Even with the box finally opened, I didn't really have a plan. That's both uncomfortable and familiar for me. For most of my life, I've worked well without a plan. Spending over a decade as an emergency responder teaches you how to walk into uncertainty, assess what's in front of you, and build a path forward as you go. But this project is different. This is something I'm still very new at. And when I'm new at something, I usually want structure, like a roadmap or a clear sense of how to get from start to finish. Choosing not to overplan this feels risky, but it also feels honest. So I'm gonna continue to be honest. Not knowing the lore makes me a little anxious. That anxiety is part of why I put off doing this for so long. It feels almost sacrilegious to go into a combat patrol when my main focus is painting and not playing the game. I respect the people who are deeply connected to the Aeldari and their stories, but accuracy isn't the goal here. I'll look things up as I go, I'll pull inspiration where I need it, but painting is the priority. I'm giving myself permission to create what feels right to me, not what technically is correct to the game or the lore. I'm choosing to take this combat patrol slowly. Not because I can't go faster, but because I don't want to. Working through this group by group gives me space to actually learn. It lets me notice mistakes instead of hiding them. The series is about where my skill level actually is at the start of 2026, not where I wish it were. The painting journey is exactly that, a journey. Rushing to the finish line would only make sense if it was me trying to hide failure. Moving slowly forces me to face them. When I think about what I actually want to learn through this series, it's not about mastering everything all at once. It's about tightening the fundamentals. I want cleaner lines, especially where armor plates meet, where mistakes tend to stack up if I'm not careful. I want better paint consistency, knowing when paint is too thin, when it's too thick, and how to keep it consistent across an entire unit instead of just a single model. I want more confidence working on smooth surfaces. Flat armor is unforgiving, and right now, that's one of the areas where my hesitation shows the most. And maybe most importantly, I want to learn when to stop. I have a tendency to keep pushing a model past the point where it's actually getting better. Learning when a model is done, even if it's not perfect, is something I want to get better at. None of these are advanced techniques, they're foundational, but they're the foundations everything else builds on, and that's what this series is really about. This series isn't really documenting finished models. It's documenting decisions, why I choose one approach over another, where I slow down, where I change my mind, what works and what doesn't. What you're seeing here is the process as it happens, not the polished version after everything's been corrected or cleaned up off camera. That part matters to me. I want to be able to look back at this and understand why something improved, not just that it did. To see the choices that led there and the moments where things didn't go the way I expected. Because that's how progress actually happens. Not in big leaps, but in small, deliberate adjustments made over time. And once that record exists, it gives every next step context. Alright, now the fun part actually starts, because everything you've seen up to this point is just the setup. The next episode is where paint finally hits plastic. And we're not starting with a full unit, we're starting with one model, the Spiritseer, for a very specific reason. That model becomes the baseline. It's the snapshot of where my skills are right now. No hiding, no skipping ahead. This is the reference point everything else in this series gets compared to. From there, each episode stacks a new challenge on top of the last. Painting an entire unit the same way and seeing if consistency actually holds. Pushing contrast on more complex shapes without letting things turn messy. Going back to earlier work and refining it, not pretending the first pass never happened. And eventually, we get to the big ones. The larger models. The ones that force me to slow down, commit, and really test everything I've learned along the way. If you've ever wondered what improvement actually looks like, not just before and after shots, but the messy middle in between, that's exactly what is gonna happen here. So if you're even a little curious, if you want to see whether this actually works, hit subscribe because episode 2 is where this journey really begins.